Before we sort of start in any great detail, how about we do a small centering exercise just to kind of bring us all into this space? I know some of you may be feeling a little nervous. Are you? Because I was feeling a bit nervous this morning. And so it's always nice to do a little meditation just to center ourselves and sort of bring us into a receptive space. So if you want to sit with the spine upright, and just allow yourself to relax both from the physical body, mentally. Just let the shoulders be at ease. Open that heart by taking the shoulders back. Let the whole chest open. Balance your weight evenly on both sides of the body. Place your hands on the thighs with the palms facing up, so that's a very receptive position. Keep that whole back upright, the spine is long. The chin stays level with the ground so that the whole back of the neck can be relaxed. And imagine that the top of the head is moving up towards the ceiling. You could visualize a golden thread hanging from above and it's giving you a small lift. Gently close those eyes. Bring the awareness to the point between the eyebrows and look out into the distance, into that space in front of those closed eyes, just a little above eye level. Your whole body is at ease. Become aware of this body breathing. Feel the flow of air in and out through your nose. If you have any questions that you want answers to, either about the topic that we're going to talk about today, or maybe you need some guidance in your life, mentally ask that question as you gaze into that space in front of those closed eyes. Putting that question out to the universe, asking for guidance. And then bring yourself back. Become aware of your heart. Become aware of this physical body. Wiggle those toes, wiggle those fingers. And then open those eyes, come back into this space. So welcome everybody. We call this place the Narrows Retreat. It's also our family home. And today's subject, which is Kriya Yoga. Some people thought that yoga was about yoga postures. And the word yoga these days is often kind of taken as a synonym for yoga postures. But really, the word yoga doesn't mean that at all. The word yoga really means union with the infinite consciousness or union with the divine. And what that means, in fact, that is the subject for today. Everything that I share with you, I have learned through Paramahansa Yogananda. That's this man here, this yogi. Some of you may have read this book or heard of this book. I don't know, who's heard or read this book? Oh, quite a few. Quite a few. This book was published in 1946. So a long time ago, and I'll just tell you a little story. You all know Steve Jobs. When he's the founder of the Apple gadgets are very intuitive. And Steve Jobs used to read this book once a year, every year from the age of 17 onwards. And if you Google it, it'll tell you that he read this book 40 times in his life, once each year. And it was the only book that he had on his iPad. And when he died, at his memorial service, everybody was given a copy of this book. It came in a little brown box. And when you opened the box, you'd think he would have given you a gadget, right? But no, there was this book in that box. So quite a lot of well-known figures were inspired by Paramahansa Yogananda. The other person is George Harrison of the Beatles. In fact, on one of the albums, I think it's called Sgt. Pepper, there are a whole lot of little squares of people. And he's got that whole line of masters on that album. Paramahansa Yogananda was born in India in 1893. And he was sent by his predecessors, whose pictures we've got on that little table, to go to the West to take the teachings of Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is a meditation technique. And it's an ancient meditation technique. Ancient, but not old. And it's a technique that comes from the high ages. What do I mean by the high ages? Normally we think that once upon a time people were primitive, and now we've got all this technology, washing machines and internet and cell phones, so we are now more advanced. Isn't that how we tend to think? But what the yogis say is the world moves around in cycles. What does it mean that a world moves around in cycles? That means that there is an ascension that's happening, and then there is a descension. And so things get better for a while, and then things disintegrate. And what we're talking about in terms of getting better and disintegrating is our consciousness. In fact, yoga is really a science of consciousness. Too subtle for the physical scientist. something that you have to experiment in the lab of your own consciousness. And so what happens is, this cycle is 24,000 years long, so one circle is a period of 24,000 years, and 12,000 years where man's consciousness is ascending, meaning that we are able to comprehend the subtler aspects of life, not just what the physical senses can comprehend. And then the 12,000 years of descending cycle where our consciousness comes down to the point where all we can comprehend is what we can experience through our five senses. So anything that cannot be experienced with the five senses, we think that it doesn't exist. Now, this whole topic of the world cycles is a whole topic in itself. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in it, but just enough to know that the Kriya Yoga technique comes from the high ages when the subtleties were known to mankind. And then as the age came down, the subtleties were lost. And Kriya Yoga itself was lost to humanity because our consciousness was unable to grasp a technique that worked with energy. What is energy? It's something that's not available for us to see with our physical eyes. But yet it is something that we experience in ourselves, right? We know when our energy is uplifted, we feel happy. Yet no instrument, no physical instrument can measure this. And so in the high ages, this subtle knowledge was there. But then as we moved more towards the physical consciousness, this knowledge got lost. And so, and in any age, there are always people who live ahead of the ages, who are more evolved than the general population of the time. And so what those people did, they went and into the Himalayan mountains, they went into the forests, they found themselves in monasteries so that they could carry on practicing the technique, carry on with their experiments with the science of consciousness. And so in this way, the Kriya Yoga technique was guarded as the age came down into more meta consciousness. And then as the age started moving up again, and the good news is we are not in the descending arc of the world cycle, we are actually in the ascending arc, but in the very early stages of the ascending arc. The current period that we are in, the age of energy, lasts 2,400 years, and we are about 320 odd years into the 2,400 years. So you can see that we are still in the very early stages of this age of energy, and we've come out of that age of metta, known as Kali Yuga. And so, coming back to a little bit about how the Kriya Yoga technique was released back into the world, it came through the instrumentality of these masters that we have got on the table. The year was 1861, so it wasn't that long ago, right? We're not talking 2,000, 3,000 years ago. In the year 1861, there was a man by the name of Lahiri. Lahiri's picture is the first picture on that table. Lahiri was a government accountant in India, about 30 years old, and he he lived in Varanasi, and he was relocated to the foothill of the Himalayan mountains. His bosses told him that that's where he needed to go. But when he arrived there, he realized that there was not a lot of work to be done. And so he spent quite a bit of time roaming the Himalayan mountains. I'm not going to go into the whole story. The whole story is told in here, but just enough so that we get some picture of how this technique have come to us. So Lahiri was in the Himalayan mountains. He meets a man called Babaji. Babaji is the second picture there, and Babaji is still living in the Himalayan mountains. He doesn't have an email address, so we can't really write to him. But people have had encounters with Babaji. And the thing with Babaji is you have to make yourself receptive to experience his presence. I was talking to Rebecca just before, and Rebecca asked me, who is that lady on that altar, the second picture? And I said, oh, he's a man. And it's Babaji, and he lives in the Himalayan mountains, and he's been living for thousands of years. Paramahansa Yogananda in this book says that he's been living for centuries, perhaps millenniums. You know, our cognitive mind just cannot comprehend any of this. But what I was telling Rebecca is, Paramahansa Yogananda writes in this book, anybody who utters the name of Babaji with reverence attracts his instant blessing. And so I said to Rebecca, we've attracted Babaji's instant blessing because we uttered his name with reverence. And so Babaji gave the technique of Kriya Yoga to Lahiri Mahashaya, and Lahiri Mahashaya then comes back into the world to give the technique to people like us. Lahiri was a householder. He was married. He had 2 sons. Is that right? Yeah. He had 2 sons. He was married. He was working an ordinary job, government accountant. I mean, you know, how much more boring can it be? And I'm qualified to say that because once upon a time I used to work as one. And so Lahiri goes back to Varanasi because it so happened that his transfer had happened in error. And he goes back to his hometown, and he starts sharing these teachings and techniques of Kriya Yoga. One of his disciples was a man by the name of Sri Yukteswar. That's that picture there, the man with the white beard. Sri Yukteswar meets Babaji at a spiritual gathering that happens in India once every 12 years. It's called the Kumbh Mela. And the year is 1895 or 1894, somewhere around there. And Babaji tells Sri Yukteswar that I will send you a disciple who you will train, who will go to the West and take the teachings of Kriya Yoga into the West. And so Paramahansa Yogananda met Sri Yukteswar when he was 17 years old. And for 10 years, Sri Yukteswar trained Paramahansa Yogananda. And then in 1920, Paramahansa Yogananda goes to America. And he travels the length and breadth of America sharing these teachings. And he passed away in 1952. So I never really met him. But his teachings carry on by people who live the teachings. Just like, you know, the teachings of Jesus carry on because people living today practice his teachings. And so it's actually a living tradition. So that's a little bit of history about Kriya Yoga. Any thoughts or questions? All happy so far? Great. Okay, so let's look at what Kriya Yoga is and how it all works. I have a friend, Alexandra, who came yesterday from Auckland, and she shared with me, Alexandra does a lot of ocean swimming. And Alexandra shared with me that when once she was swimming in the ocean, a big whale swam underneath her. And whales are huge mammals, and it displaces a large volume of water, which meant that Alexandra also was displaced from where she was swimming, because a whale creates a huge wave, right? So how does this apply to Kriya Yoga? I want you to imagine on the surface of the ocean. You are on the surface of the ocean. You will experience everything that happens at the surface of the ocean, right? And the surface of the ocean is often up and down, up and down. And you get tossed about. Sometimes the sea is calm and it might be all okay, but sometimes the sea is rough, or sometimes a whale just comes and displaces you. So when you're on the surface, you experience all the ups and downs of what's happening on the surface of the ocean. Now I have another friend who used to do a lot of diving once upon a time. And she tells me, because I myself have never dived, but what she tells me is when you go deep down into the ocean, it's a whole different world. Is anybody here dived? You have, Suzanne? It's a different world. And different colors, different life forms. And my friend also told me it's very, very calm there. You've dived, Rebecca? Being in the womb, huh? And it's a whole different world. And yet, it's just as real as the world on the surface of the ocean, without all the ups and downs. And so, this brings us to Kriya Yoga. What is it that we are doing with Kriya Yoga? The teachings of yoga tell us that there are different levels of awareness. And these different levels of awareness, the first level of awareness is our physical body, which is the densest form. And then underneath the physical body, we have the energy body. And we can all feel our energy bodies, right? We know when we're feeling kind of unenergetic and lethargic. We know when we're feeling uplifted. So the energy body is something that we feel. You can think of the different layers of awareness as, you know, those nesting Russian dolls? And on the surface, if you did not know anything about these nesting dolls, all you will see is that doll that's in front of you, without realizing that there are all these other dolls stacked inside. And likewise, often what we are aware of is this physical existence, without really realizing that there are all these other dolls that reside inside of us that we are often not aware of. And I've got the diagram there on that wall, which Alexandra kindly made for me this morning. I had the inspiration this morning that I must make something like this to help us kind of understand this concept. So I said to Alexandra, are you good with your, drawing? Can you make me this? And she did. And so the outermost layer is the physical body. Underneath this physical body is your energy body. And then under that energy body is your mental and emotional body. And then underneath that is your wisdom body. And then the final one is the bliss body. And our soul nature is actually inside that bliss body, hidden inside. And our soul nature is pure bliss, love, all compassion, and that remains hidden behind all these different sheets that we are not aware of. And so what we are doing with Kriya Yoga is we moving our awareness away from the physical body into our true soul nature, which remains hidden behind many, many different sheets. So the Kriya technique itself works with energy. Now I want to talk about how does Kriya work. The Kriya technique works with energy. The energy body is that second layer from the outside, and the energy is very fluid, right? Unlike this physical body. Energy just flows. And that energy body, or the life force, is what connects the physical body to the mind. So, if you are just using your mind in meditation, and the mind is connected to the physical body using life force or energy, it becomes almost a difficult task to gain control of that mind, because the senses is always going to bring our awareness out into the world. Our senses, our physical senses, move us out into the world. Is that right? If you observe a young child, take them into a shopping mall, they just want to grab everything, right? They smell chips from McDonald's and they want to eat chips. They see some toy and then they want that toy. As in, what's happening with that energy? It's always reaching out. And when energy moves out, it kind of depletes us, right? That energy is all very scattered. And you bring that child back home, it's very hard to settle that child. And sometimes you have to drive them round and round the block in order to put them to sleep. Because the energy is all scattered. So what we are doing with Kriya Yoga is we actually reversing that process. We're reversing the process whereby the energy, instead of moving out, will move back in so that we can experience the bliss body and our soul nature that resides within it. Is that still making sense? I've not lost anybody yet. And so the yogis discovered that the best way to reverse this process is by gaining control of your energy. You know, we've all had experiences where you're so focused on a project that you are working on that somebody could be calling your name beside you and you don't hear it. Can we all relate to that experience? Why can we not hear it? It's not that we are hard of hearing, but we have cut the cord to that telephone that's ringing. So the telephone's no longer ringing. We've disconnected our awareness from the sense organ because we are so absorbed in the project that is in front of us. So Kriya Yoga is really about disconnecting your awareness from all your senses so that the awareness of the physical body disappears. In fact, when we go to sleep, we all become yogis. You know that? Because when we sleep, we are not aware of the physical body, are we? Nor are we aware of our mind. We are in a completely another space, a different level of awareness. What actually happens when we are sleeping is the energy, and this is the second layer that's there, all the energy gets withdrawn from the physical body, and that's how we lose awareness of the physical body, and it moves into our astral spine. Now I'm beginning to talk a little bit, going into the esoteric side. We have channels of energy in this body, 72,000 of them. There is a major channel of energy right in the very center, which I will call the astral spine. The Sanskrit word, for those who want to know, it's Sushumna. And so what happens is all the energy from the physical body, from the mind, is withdrawn, and it goes into your Sushumna, the astral spine. And the astral spine is actually a reservoir of cosmic energy. And that energy merges with the cosmic energy, and cosmic energy is healing. And that's how, sometimes you find that if you've hurt yourself, if you've had a surgery, after even a single night's sleep, you notice that your body begins to heal. It begins to heal because you've taken the awareness from the physical body. That energy merges with the healing currents in your astral spine, and it revitalizes each and every cell in your body. So now, when we are sleeping, this process is happening below our level of awareness. It's happening at a subconscious level. A Kriya Yogi uses this same process but does it at a conscious level. As in, you don't have to do this in sleep. We can do this while being awake. You all with me so far? Do you find this interesting? It's actually absolutely fascinating, the whole science of Kriya Yoga. And I'm not telling anything that's not in this book. There is a chapter in here, chapter number 26, and it's titled The Science of Kriya Yoga. If you don't have this book, that's not a problem. I've put this whole chapter on my website. And in fact, you just have to search Science of Kriya Yoga, and many other organizations have also put that chapter on the web, so you can read it quite freely. This book, by the way, is in the public domain, so there's no infringement of copyrights happening when we do that. What Kriya Yoga does for us is it decarbonizes the blood, meaning it purifies the blood. It takes our awareness, the energy, away from the physical body and puts it into the astral spine, where it can merge with the healing currents that exist there, a whole reservoir of cosmic energy in the astral spine. And what that does then is it electrifies every cell in the body. It begins to transform us in ways that we had never ever imagined. It's very hard to comprehend this with our cognitive mind. It is something that needs to be practiced and experienced for your own self. Kriya Yoga speeds up our evolution. It's like stepping your foot on the accelerator of the car. Paramahansa Yogananda says that one Kriya is equivalent to 1 year's worth of natural evolution through healthy natural living. What is one Kriya? One Kriya means one breath. One inhale, one exhale is one Kriya. You know, the earth moves around the sun, and it takes a year for the earth to move around the sun. Just like there's a universe out there, we also have an internal universe with an internal sun. In Kriya Yoga, we are moving our energy around the internal sun, which is how our evolution is quickened. And a beginner Kriya Yogi will usually practice 14 Kriyas twice a day, so that's 28 Kriyas. So in one single day, if practiced correctly, I must add that, you are giving yourself 28 years worth of evolution in just one day. Multiply that by 365. I don't know what it comes to. But you can basically get what I mean, that it really speeds up your evolution. And normally, for most people, their lives are influenced very much by what's happening out in the environment and by our own past, by our own karma. But an advanced Kriya Yogi's life is influenced by the soul. It's not affected by things that happen in the external world. It's not even affected by karma. In fact, Kriya Yoga is a technique that burns up our karma. So our karma doesn't have to play out into this world. Maybe your karma was to break a leg, and all you might get is a little scratch. And so a Kriya Yogi's life is directed from within rather than from what's happening around you. You are more in control of your life. Kriya controls the reactive process. You know, normally we are always reacting in this world. Things happen that makes us super excited. Some things happen that makes us very depressed. We are like up and down, waves on the ocean. But a wave has no reality of its own, does it? It arises from the ocean and it goes back into the ocean. The only reality is that ocean. And likewise, our emotions, up and down, up and down. They don't have any enduring reality. And what Kriya Yoga does for us is it stops the reactive process so that we can be more even-minded. And when we're more even-minded, when we stop reacting to things of the world, we naturally find who we truly are. Our blissful self, you know, that bliss body that's right inside of us, that we are usually not aware of when we're living on the surface. I want to read a quote from the autobiography of a yogi, and This is what Lahiri Mahashaya says. Lahiri Mahashaya is that yogi who received the technique of Kriya Yoga from Babaji in the Himalayan mountains. So he says, Paramahansa Yogananda writes, the master never counseled slavish belief. You know, Yogananda talks about this often. He says, do not believe anything that I tell you. Practice it and see what it does for you. This is our lab, and this is where we need to do the experiment. What we have got is a hypothesis that has been proved by other scientists, but we want to prove it for ourselves. So the master never counseled slavish belief. Words are only shells, he said. Win conviction of God's presence through your own joyous contact in meditation. No matter what the disciple's problem, the Guru advised Kriya Yoga. No matter what the disciple's problem, the Guru advised Kriya Yoga for its solution. The yogic key will not lose its sufficiency when I am no longer present in the body to guide you. Continue ceaselessly on your path to liberation through Kriya Yoga, whose power lies in practice. So how about we have a little practice of meditation, and then we have got a few people in this class who have been practicing Kriya Yoga, and then we can kind of have a cup of tea and you can have a little chat with them, see what their experience was. They might be able to answer some of your questions, and we can just have a little bit of informal time. But let's do a little practice of meditation. So if you want to sit with your spine upright, take your shoulders back, open that whole heart, place your hands at the junction of the abdomen and the thighs, or somewhere where it's comfortable for you, palms facing up, chin level with the ground. Gently close those eyes, bring your awareness to the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows. The point between the eyebrows is really our doorway to the inner kingdom. Let's take a double breath in, short followed by long inhale. Tense your whole body until it vibrates, and then double exhale. Relax the body completely. Double inhale. Tense your whole body so that it vibrates, and then double exhale. Guide you into even count breathing. It's a triangle breath where we'll breathe in to a certain count. We'll hold the breath to the same count, and then we'll breathe out to the same count. We'll initially begin with a count of 4. So breathe in. Hold your breath. Exhale. And inhale. Hold your breath. And breathe out. And breathe in. And hold. And exhale. Let the body breathe naturally now. Observe the flow of breath in your nostrils. Become aware of the sensations in your nostrils as the breath moves in and out. If your mind wanders away, just gently bring it back so that you're observing the flow of breath in the nostrils. Just a few more rounds of breath. So concentrate deeply. Take a deep breath in. Do a triple exhale. Continue meditating. Become aware of the feeling of stillness, the peace that you may experience. And slowly bring yourself out of this practice. I'm happy to take a couple of questions before we kind of break up. The cautious. Mm. Hmm. The energy body is what ties the physical body and to the soul. The soul is tied to this physical body with life force, with energy. It's the cord. Yeah. Does that make sense? And that's why we need to kind of, if we can gain mastery over that energy, that's right. We can then choose whether we put our energy in an outward direction or do we move that energy in an inward direction. The average person does not have any control over their energy. So whatever they feel to do, they just go ahead and do it. Like you feel angry and you just lash out. But once you begin to gain some mastery over your energy, you may notice anger arising, and you have the ability to channel that energy in a different direction. Because what is anger? It's just a form of energy. And when you become aware of it, you then have the choice to transmute it. That maybe, I'll go for a jog instead. Or I'll put lots of energy in cleaning the walls or the windows. So what the practices of Kriya Yoga begins to develop in you is a greater awareness of energy. And not only that, how you can bring more energy into this body. Because, you realize that when you want to do something, you have lots of energy, right? When you don't feel like doing something, you are tired before you even start. So what makes the difference? It's got nothing to do with the physical body as such. So there are ways to bring in energy into this body. We learn how to withdraw energy from this body. The Kriya technique itself has, the path of Kriya Yoga has got several techniques. 4 core techniques. One is the Hongso technique of meditation, which I teach in our beginner's meditation course, which is 4 weeks long. Then there is another technique called the Om technique, where you learn to listen to the cosmic sound. The yogis say that the sound of Om is always all around us, but we don't hear it. And so the technique of Om teaches you how to listen to that cosmic sound. There's another technique called the energization exercises. It's a series of 39 exercises, which only really takes about 10 or 12 minutes to do, and just about anybody can do it. Even somebody in a wheelchair can do that energization exercises. And in the energization exercises, you learn how to draw cosmic energy into your body and channel it to where you want it to. And then the 4th technique is the Kriya Yoga technique itself. And Kriya Yoga is given by initiation. And the reason it's given by initiation is to continue the touch that has come from the great masters, because that does a lot of work for us. It's like not our own effort alone, but the grace that flows through. And so it's given by, the Sanskrit word for that is diksha. It's given by diksha, by initiation. And so these are the 4 techniques, but the process itself is a 5-step process. The first step is learning the Hongso technique of meditation and the energization exercises. So the Hongso technique is a 4-week course that I teach. The energization exercises, I've done it in different formats here. Sometimes I've taught it as just like a small workshop. Sometimes I've taught it as a 4-week class. Sometimes I tell people just go and learn it off YouTube or an app. There are many different ways of learning it. So that's part 1. Step 2 is a course called Art and Science of Raja Yoga, where you learn the whole philosophy around energy, around magnetism. Why does life feel so much like a battlefield all the time? You learn more about the chakras in that course. So it's a very in-depth course, Art and Science of Raja Yoga. And it's a 14-week course. And then there is part 3, which is a course in discipleship. Part 4 is a preparation for Kriya Yoga, where you learn more techniques to prepare you for Kriya Yoga. And then the 5th part of it is not a course, but it's a ceremony, and Kriya Yoga is given through initiation. Is there anything else? Yeah.
This little meditation that you did, is that part of the Kriya Yoga?
So what we did is the technique that I teach in the 4-week course. It's the very first part of that 4-week course. But there is more to that technique. And usually I teach it step by step so that you can understand what all the different steps in the practice are. As in, what we are doing in Kriya Yoga practice is we are moving from the physical body slowly towards that bliss body and beyond the bliss body. And so the meditation techniques kind of move in that direction. So we first become aware of the physical body like we did today. I said, okay, make yourself comfortable. This is how you sit. This is how you place your hands. And then I said, okay, become aware of the breath, because what we are trying to do is moving ourselves a little bit away from this physical body towards the energy body. But at some level, we're still kind of aware of the physical sensations of the breathing and all. And then, when I said that let go the watching the breath, just become aware of the stillness, the peace, it's kind of allowing us to go into deeper and deeper levels. And so in that 4-week course, we will learn how to dive deep into our meditation practice. Often, when people say that they've been practicing meditation using apps and all, often they just keep us at the level of physical awareness, and we never really touch, nor are we aware of that process that's happening. The word meditation is also often used very loosely. Sometimes you might ask somebody do you want to do such and such, and the person might say, oh, let me meditate on it, And I mean, that's not really meditation. Meditation, in Sanskrit, the word for meditation is dhyan. And dhyan means to focus or to concentrate all your awareness on the divine, on the spirit. Awareness on the body, scanning the body, that's not meditation. Anything else? Shall we put the jug on? So yeah, those who are Kriya Yogis, you may want to identify yourselves to the people here so that they can come and talk to you. And even if you haven't quite got the Kriya initiation, but you are already on the path of Kriya Yoga, you too can share your experiences of what you have learned so far and anything else you want to share. So please do ask them. There's Shelley there in green. There's Bernie behind the camera. Who else? Serena, who's hiding at the back there. And there's Marie. She's got glasses on top of her head. So the names that I have mentioned, they have gone all the way to Kriya initiation, and they've been practicing Kriya for some time now. And then we've got Alexandra, who just started this journey. Is it about a year or less? Yeah. Usually within a year, you should be able to get to Kriya if you are very dedicated. But not everybody does. I mean, and it's not a process that we can hurry either. It's just like, when a child is learning to swim, you can't hurry the process of when they're going to turn around and take a breath in. It's a developmental process, and likewise, the Kriya journey will show you that spiritual evolution is actually a developmental process. We can't hurry it. In some ways, yes, we can hurry it, but what I mean by hurry it is by your conscientious practice of the techniques. And we have Suzanne. I think Suzanne's got to leave soon, though. She's helping her mom pack up the house in preparation for painting. And we've also got Helen in red at the back, who is also able to share some of her experience. And Vidya has been practicing Hong So. You've learned it. But even that's a good experience to share, that you learned it and then what happened.
And I see it when you say it's a slow process, has to be stepwise from outside. You can't just jump in.
The idea is to just don't let it go. Keep that lifeline, even if you're just holding it by a thin thread. Just hold on to that lifeline and never let it go. So I'm going to put the jug on, but you can chat.